On our 30th wedding anniversary, I was diagnosed with terminal stomach cancer, yet my high-ranking official husband handed me divorce papers. "Ivy, let's get a divorce, I'll leave with nothing, and all the money at home will be left for your treatment." "Why?" I demanded, my voice hoarse with emotion. The husband replied calmly, "You cannot pass away as my wife, otherwise, Lacey would only be able to become my second wife. Lacey is proud and ambitious, she couldn't bear this humiliation." I spat out a mouthful of dark blood and unwillingly closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I had returned to my wedding night. 23-year-old Axel Yu said to me, "Ivy-shan, I can marry you, but I won't touch you. I promised Lacey to remain chaste for her for a lifetime." I nodded, "Then let's get divorced." On the wedding night, the noisy banquet finally came to an end. Axel Yu sat in an armchair, looking at me with a serious expression. "Ivy-shan, let's talk, you know. Lacey and I were forced apart by our families. I can't forget her. I can give you status, I can give you all my salary, but I can't give you myself. I promised Lacey that I would remain chaste for her until she comes back to me." Hearing the familiar conversation, my mind went blank for a moment. I had actually been reborn. I was reborn on my wedding night, the day my husband Axel Yu laid his cards on the table with me. In my past life, being naive and inexperienced, I was moved by his and Lacey Chen's tragic love story and agreed without a second thought, because Axel Yu told me that if he didn't find someone to fake a marriage with, his family would not let Lacey Chen go. At that time, Lacey Chen was a capitalist's daughter sent down to the farm. Axel Yu, however, was the only male heir in 3 generations of the Yu family, a 3rd-generation military scion on whom great hopes were pinned, for the sake of Axel Yu's future. The Yu family absolutely refused to let him marry a capitalist's daughter. To appease Axel Yu, the Yu family promised that, as long as the woman had a good class background, he could marry anyone he wanted. Except Lacey Chen, Axel Yu finally chose me. Because my family had been poor peasants for 3 generations, my class background was impeccable. Because I came from the countryside, naive and simple, easy to manipulate. But in this life, Axel Yu, I don't want to be a part of your tragic love story anymore. I raised my head and looked at him calmly. "I understand. Then, please accompany me to the commune tomorrow to finalize the divorce procedures." Axel Yu looked at me in astonishment. "Why?" I smiled, revealing deep dimples. "Because I was also forced to marry you. I also have someone in my heart, but that person, like your Lacey, is someone I cannot marry just yet." For a moment, I saw Axel Yu's expression. As if he had swallowed a live fly, I secretly sneered. "What, so you're allowed to have a white moonlight in your heart, and I'm not allowed to have a cinnabar mole in mine?" Hearing me say that I also had someone in my heart, Axel Yu twitched the corner of his mouth and revealed an ugly smile. "Is that so? Well, that's good too. This way, we're even. But let's forget about divorce for now, since you can't marry him anytime soon anyway." I shook my head firmly. "No, he has strong self-esteem. And I don't want people to say he was the third party who came between our marriage." Axel Yu's expression grew even uglier, and he was just about to say something. I had already picked up the large floral dowry quilt. I'm afraid he might get jealous later. "Tonight, let's sleep in separate rooms." Watching Axel Yu's stunned expression, I felt extremely satisfied. In this life, you too shall taste the feeling of staying alone in an empty room, sleepless through the night. The next morning, I woke up to a cold stove and an empty kitchen. I didn't even prepare breakfast. Axel Yu was stunned for a moment, then forced a bitter smile and said, "Ivy, even if it's just for show, shouldn't we at least act like a married couple? You should at least prepare 3 meals a day, otherwise, with a cold stove and empty pots, what kind of impression does that give?" Yes, that's exactly what the foolish me from my past life, used to think. In the previous life, in order to cover up the illicit love between Axel Yu and Lacey Chen, I endured the heartache, like a dutiful wife, buying groceries, cooking, doing laundry, and mopping the floor every day. I have managed our small family with Axel Yu in an orderly manner, but in reality, every day after work, Axel Yu and I are like 2 roommates sharing a place. We ate dinner in silence, then retreated to our separate rooms. For 3 whole years. Axel Yu has kept his promise to his first love and hasn't touched me once. 3 years later, my father-in-law was hospitalized with liver cancer, and my mother-in-law was also in poor health, under the pressure of public opinion, as their daughter-in-law. I had no choice but to quit my job and return home to take care of them. Little did I know that this caregiving would last for 12 years. My father-in-law's liver cancer dragged on for 3 years before he passed away, and soon after, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with a tumor. Those years, I accompanied my in-laws, taking care of their every need in the hospital, feeding them, helping them with daily necessities, until I lost over 30 pounds from exhaustion, so thin that a gust of wind could have blown me away. But when I saw my in-laws off and returned to the military compound, I realized that the home that originally belonged to Axel Yu and me had already been taken over by his first love, Lacey Chen. That evening, I stood at the doorway, watching Axel Yu, dressed in a crisp military uniform, open the passenger door of the Jeep. Lacey Chen, with gentle eyes and wearing a fashionable khaki trench coat, extended her hand and gracefully stepped out of the car, holding his hand. Seeing me standing at the door, Axel Yu was startled for a moment. "Ivy, why are you back?" I forced an awkward smile and said, "This is my home, why can't I come back?" Everyone in the courtyard looked over. Lacey Chen, both embarrassed and furious, shook off Axel Yu's hand harshly, covered her face, and ran out crying. Axel Yu glared at me with a face full of rage, shouting uncontrollably, "Ivy Shen, don't think that just because you've served my parents all these years and took care of them until their last days, I'll be grateful to you or fall in love with you. I told you on our wedding day, the one I love is Lacey Chen. You and I are nothing but a couple in name, a sham marriage." That night, neither Axel Yu nor Lacey Chen came back. In truth, if he had waited just one more minute, he would have known that this time I came back not to be his wife. "I just want to take my things. By the way, tell him that now that his parents are no longer here, there is no one left in this world to stand in the way of him and Lacey Chen. I want to part on good terms with him and take this opportunity to finalize our divorce. Let him and Lacey Chen, that star-crossed couple, be together openly and without shame. I also want to tell him that all these years, although I have harbored resentment toward him, there has been no hatred, even though he left me in a living widowhood for 30 years, but because of him, I have been an officer's wife for 30 years, enjoying the benefits of a military family for 3 decades. Even my mother-in-law, before she passed away, held my hand and said that all these years, the Yu family had wronged me. My mother-in-law said that if I didn't want to stay with Axel Yu anymore, I should divorce him. She left me $5,000 and a house, so even if we divorced, I wouldn't be homeless. I had already made up my mind to part with him amicably, but just my luck. Axel Yu seemed to be under some kind of spell, convinced that I took care of his parents in their old age just to use it as a moral bargaining chip, to bind him so he could never even think of divorcing me. In our past life, we misunderstood each other just like this. For Lacey Chen's sake, he applied for a transfer and took his beloved white moonlight to the remote borderlands. I stayed in our hometown, enduring endless gossip, and in the end, I developed stomach cancer, even on my deathbed. I was forced into a divorce. As my thoughts returned to the present, I picked up the household register and the marriage certificate I had just obtained the day before. I urged Axel Yu again to go with me to get the divorce certificate. Who would have thought that Axel Yu, who kept telling me not to have any wishful thinking about him, would dawdle and refuse to go? I patiently explained, "Don't worry, it's just a secret divorce certificate. During holidays, or when your parents visit, I'll still keep my promise and pretend to be a fake couple with you." Axel Yu interrupted me impatiently. "No way. Do you think a military marriage can be dissolved just like that? If we want a divorce, we have to report it to the military. Once the report is submitted, my parents will definitely find out." "Ivy Shen, are you deliberately trying to kill Lacey?" I was stunned for a moment, never expecting that getting a divorce would require reporting to the military. Seeing me speechless, Axel Yu's stern face broke into a faint smile. He reassured me, saying, "You don't need to worry about your innocence. I've already transferred Lacey to the military hospital. From now on, both Lacey and I will stay in the military. You'll be living at home alone. My eyes lit up. So can I bring someone home to stay? Axel Yu's smiling face suddenly stiffened. You want to bring that man home? I nodded vigorously. Don't worry, I won't cheat on you, to outsiders. I'll just say he's my brother. Axel Yu opened his mouth, looking as if he wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come out. I knew he wanted to say that men and women should maintain boundaries and that I shouldn't get too close to other men, but just a moment ago, it was he himself who first mentioned that he was living in the military base with his white moonlight. Lacey Chen, now you won't let me bring someone back either. Isn't that a case of contradicting yourself? Seeing him so angry he looked about to explode, I suppressed a laugh and deliberately said to him, if you think bringing someone to the military compound will stir up gossip, then how about you give me some money to rent a place outside for him to stay? Axel Yu froze for a moment, then instantly flared up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Ivy Shen, you actually want to use my money to support some man on the side? Watching Axel Yu's frantic expression, I patiently explained once again, Li Jianfeng isn't some random man, he's the one I love. If it weren't for their family's terrible background that my parents absolutely refused to accept, I wouldn't have had to enter this fake marriage with you. The same words, when spoken by Lacey Chen, made Axel Yu think I was considerate and sensible, but when it came to Li Jianfeng, Axel Yu's expression looked as if he had just eaten a pile of shit. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. In my previous life, I had once hinted to Axel Yu that he should keep an appropriate distance from Lacey Chen. After all, he was still my husband in name, yet he was entangled with his single, unattainable love. If word got out, not only would it embarrass my in-laws, but it would also negatively impact his future. But what did Axel Yu say at the time? Ivyshan, don't use your small-minded, vulgar thinking to insult the relationship between Lacey and me. Though we admired each other, we never crossed the line. Lacey and I have a pure, innocent comrade-in-arms relationship. Now, I'm giving these words back to you exactly as they were said. Axel Yu, I've already told you, my relationship with Zhong Feng is purely a revolutionary friendship. Though we admired each other, we never crossed the line. If you really don't believe me, then let's get a divorce. The Axel Yu of now is not the same as the one 30 years later, the decisive military commander. Worried that his parents might take action against Lacey Chen, Axel Yu simply doesn't dare to actually divorce me. Taking a deep breath, Axel Yu, his face ashen, pulled out more than a dozen big tens from his coat pocket and threw them at me in a fit of anger. Take this to support your bastard man, and hide him far away. I don't want to see him. With the money in hand, I left the family compound without looking back. The sound of a glass shattering on the floor came from behind. But what reason did he have to be angry? After all, it was he himself who proposed this fake marriage with me. Having been reborn, I no longer wished to waste my life away in the Yu family. I'm going to save the man who, in my past life, gave me the last bit of warmth after my death. In my previous life, Axel Yu insisted on divorcing me before I died. I knew he didn't want me to enter the Yu family's ancestral grave. Even in death, he wanted to reserve that spot beside him for the woman he truly loved. After my death, my husband's family wouldn't let me in, and my own family wouldn't take me back. I almost became a lonely ghost buried in an unmarked grave. It was Li Jianfeng, the man to whom I had once given a few wild vegetable buns. Under the pretense of being husband and wife, he spent money to buy me a burial plot. Thinking of my past life, when that man personally carved the words Li Jianfeng's wife on my tombstone, my heart ached with bitterness and sorrow. Li Jianfeng is currently locked up in a cowshed for speculation and profiteering. I spent a bit of money and just mentioned my in-laws' names. Within half a day, Li Jianfeng was released from the cowshed. Brother, my shout completely stunned Li Jianfeng. Fortunately, he recognized me. All the detainees said he was lucky. If I hadn't come today, Li Jianfeng would have been sent down to the farm tomorrow. On the way back, Li Jianfeng gave me a teasing glance. Since when did I suddenly gain a younger sister? Blushing, I found myself at a loss for words to explain. After all, at this time, Li Jianfeng and I weren't even acquaintances, let alone him buying a burial plot for me. Seeing me blush and stay silent, Li Jianfeng thought he had gone too far with his joke and quickly apologized to me. Comrade Ivy Shin, a great kindness is beyond words of thanks. From now on, you are like a sister to me. If anyone dares to bully you, just say the word. I'll go through fire and water without hesitation. I looked up. Really? Then can you pretend to be my partner? I rented a small courtyard for Li Jianfeng 3 streets away from the military family compound. At this time in my previous life, I foolishly kept my promise. Washing clothes and cooking for Axel Yu every day. In the family compound, we played the role of a loving newlywed couple. In this life, I no longer wish to gloss over the truth for Axel Yu and Lacey Chen. Axel Yu took the meat, eggs, and milk provided by the military and diligently delivered them to Lacey Chen to nourish her. As for me, I used the rice, flour, and oil from my workplace to personally cook a pot of jjiang noodles, Li Jianfeng's favorite dish. Axel Yu used his salary and ration coupons to take Lacey Chen shopping at the Supply and Marketing Cooperative, watching movies and dining out. I took my salary and the receipts, bringing Li Jianfeng to the scrapyard. The Li family used to run a pawn shop, so his eye was particularly sharp. He could always pick out quite a few treasures from a pile of junk. At first, Axel Yu was quite pleased because I never questioned where he went or who he was with. After marrying me, he could still be by the side of his first love, Lacey Chen, just as before. But it wasn't long before he took the initiative to talk to me. Ivy, we can't continue like this between us. Don't you see that our home is becoming less and less like a home? I remained silent. Axel, you will never know that in my past life, I truly considered this place my home. Axel Yu says nice things, giving his salary to me but his love to his first love, but in reality, he only gave me his salary the first month. After that, I never saw a single penny of his earnings again. His salary and vouchers all turned into movie tickets for Lacey Chen, snowflake cream, dresses, and all kinds of fresh candies and pastries. Only I, like a fool, saved every penny of my salary to buy new furniture, bedding, curtains, and dishes for this home, turning the originally cold dormitory into a warm little nest. The meat, sugar, and egg vouchers issued by the unit, I also saved them all. When Axel Yu came back on vacation, I would use them to buy meat and eggs to make all kinds of delicious food for him. Axel Yu tells me not to indulge in wishful thinking, yet he shamelessly enjoys my contributions to this family. It's just a pity that the foolish Ivy Shin from the past life is already dead. In this life, I no longer care whether the house feels warm and lively, nor do I care anymore whether Axel Yu will be cold or hungry when he comes home on vacation. I moved all the things from my workplace to Li Jianfeng's place. He eats there every day before coming back. Axel Yu always thought that, at the very least, he would have a warm meal waiting for him when he came home on vacation. But what greeted him was the cold lock on the door. When he opened the door, the house was deserted. As if no one had lived there for a long time, the thermos flask was empty, and the coal stove by the door seemed like it hadn't been used for a long time. Thinking I had left the family compound, he hurriedly went to ask the neighbor next door. Unexpectedly, the neighbor said, "Your wife, she went to her brother's place. She said you weren't home, and she couldn't finish cooking for just herself, so now she cooks at her brother's place and comes back after eating." Axel Yu was seething with anger inside, sitting in the room and waiting until 8 in the evening before he saw me sitting on the back of a bicycle. Li Jianfeng rode the bicycle and brought me back. After that day, Axel Yu seemed like a completely different person. He no longer used work as an excuse to stay at the military base all day, mingling with his white moonlight. Even like other cadres in the family compound, he would bring home 2 dishes from the canteen after work. Along with a bag of steamed buns, he also bought 200 coal briquettes for the house. Every day after work, he would use the coal stove to reheat the dishes and steamed buns he had brought. Then, like a devoted husband, he would wait for me to come home from work to eat together. If it were me from my past life, I would have been moved to tears, completely falling into this man's sweet trap. But now, faced with Axel Yu's deliberate attempts to please, I responded with the same cold tone he once used in our past life. "Comrade Axel Yu, don't forget, we're just a couple in name only. My heart belongs only to brother Jianfeng. Please don't entertain any unrealistic fantasies about me." With a loud crash, the coarse porcelain bowl filled with porcelain fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Axel Yu was stunned for a moment, then lowered his head and silently fetched a broom and dustpan. Carefully sweeping up the broken porcelain pieces and the dust-covered porridge from the floor, seeing me stubbornly sitting nearby, refusing to eat the food he had brought back from the cafeteria, Axel Yu let out a bitter laugh. "Sorry, I overstepped. I just didn't expect you to really like that man so much. I thought, since you agreed to a fake marriage with me, perhaps you also felt a little. In short, what happened today was my fault, and I apologize to you. From now on, I won't interfere with your affairs with that man anymore." I raised my head and looked at him calmly. "It's best that you think this way. After all, our relationship was originally just an agreed-upon fake marriage. However, if it really bothers you to see me, I can move to Brother Jeanfeng's place. We can just tell others that you're not home and I'm scared to stay here alone." "No, don't move there." Axel Yu suddenly stood up, his voice filled with agitation. "Don't move. I'll return to the barracks tonight and leave this place to you." Axel Yu lowered his head, his eyes fixed intently on my face, as if trying to see even a hint of reluctance. However, he realized that at this moment, there wasn't the tiniest trace of reluctance on my face. Instead, there was even a sense of relief and happiness. At this moment, he discovered with immense frustration, his nominal wife seemed, truly, not to like him at all. That evening, Axel Yu left me 50 yuan. Along with 2 gin of meat coupons, 1 gin of sugar coupons, and several fabric coupons. Then, he returned to the military base overnight. Seeing that Axel Yu didn't even stay home overnight during his time off, the neighbors looked at me with a mix of mockery and sympathy. Our neighbor, Sister Liu, kindly reminded me, "Ivy, your deputy battalion commander Yu is so handsome, has a bright future, and comes from a good family. There are plenty of women out there who have their eyes on him. You must keep a tight rein on him. It's best to take advantage of your youth and quickly give him a son, lest some vixens snatch him away. By then, you'll be crying your eyes out." I smiled and explained that Axel Yu was indeed working overtime at his unit, not out fooling around with other women. Elder Sister Liu clearly didn't believe me. The way she looked at me was as if I were a complete fool. From that day on, Axel Yu indeed kept his promise and never came back. However, every month, he would send me half of his salary and various bills through others. I accepted them all without refusal. After all, this was what he owed me from his past life. In the blink of an eye, the time came when my former father-in-law was hospitalized with liver cancer. After receiving the telegram, Axel Yu immediately drove over to pick me up. However, this time, he couldn't bring himself to demand, as he had in the past life, that I quit my job and return to his hometown to take care of his parents as a matter of course. Axel Yu and I stayed in our hometown for 3 days. When it was time to leave, Axel Yu took out a bank book and asked my mother-in-law to hire a caregiver for my father-in-law. My mother-in-law glanced at me, her eyes seemingly somewhat displeased, and tentatively asked, "Your father is so seriously ill, and neither of you can stay." The implication in my mother-in-law's words was obvious. Axel Yu is now a deputy battalion commander, and this is a critical time for him to earn merits and get promoted. So of course he couldn't take a long leave to come back and take care of his father-in-law. She was hinting at me to voluntarily offer my resignation or take unpaid leave to come back and serve my father-in-law. When I glanced at Axel Yu, he somewhat guiltily turned his head away, avoiding my gaze. In my previous life, this was exactly how I was emotionally blackmailed by my in-laws' tears and the gossip around me, ultimately trapped in the Yu family's old residence, living as a grass widow for a full 12 years. In this life, I won't be so foolishly manipulated by others anymore. After all, I'm not the real daughter-in-law of the Yu family. If the in-laws want their daughter-in-law to come back to serve them, they should go to Lacey Chen instead. My mother-in-law is an educated person and wouldn't act like a wicked mother-in-law, but she kept hinting at me with her eyes. I pretended not to notice and said firmly, "I've made up my mind to sacrifice my small family for the greater good, to dedicate my life to the socialist cause." I can't abandon my work to come back and take care of the elderly. However, as a daughter-in-law, I still must fulfill my filial duties. Therefore, I told my mother-in-law that from now on, I wouldn't take a single penny of Axel Yu's salary or any of the vouchers issued by his workplace. He should send it all back to be used for hiring a caregiver for his father, buying medicine, and covering medical expenses. I meant what I said, and the following month, I no longer accepted the money and vouchers Axel Yu sent back through others. However, Lacey Chen, a capitalist's daughter accustomed to a life of luxury, would likely find her future days less comfortable without the supplement of this half of her salary. In this lifetime, I did not toil like a beast of burden for the Yu family, nor did I serve my in-laws. I had more time to go treasure hunting with Li Jianfeng in various places. We took money and food coupons to some remote commune recycling stations. With just a little money, we managed to acquire many out-of-print books, damaged antique paintings and calligraphy, as well as some artifacts that others had used as broken pots for planting vegetables. We also used the money we earned to rescue many master restorers of antiques and ancient books who were still undergoing reform in the cowsheds. With their help, we created many counterfeit artifacts that were so convincing they could pass for the real thing. We sold the fakes at high prices to foreigners. They are all truly kept within the country. In this chaotic era, we do our utmost to carefully protect the cultural relics that belong to our nation. We strive to ensure that decades from now, China will have fewer regrets about cultural relics unable to return home. When things get busy, I simply stay at Li Jianfeng's place. It wasn't until I hadn't returned home for several consecutive days that Axel Yu suddenly came looking for me. He saw me and Li Jianfeng, heads bent together, carefully examining a rare, incomplete manuscript. Axel Yu walked in with a dark expression, gritting his teeth as he questioned me. Ivy Shen, is this what you meant by completely innocent? Not a single step over the line with him. I just came from the family quarters, and they said you haven't been home for several days. Did you? With him, I impatiently cut off his speculation. Comrade Axel Yu, whatever the relationship between me and Comrade Li Jianfeng is, it doesn't seem to be any of your business, does it? Don't forget, between us, it's just a marriage in name. A sham. Axel Yu gritted his teeth and growled in a low voice. Even a fake couple is still a couple. How can you be so unfaithful, staying out all night alone with another man? What will people think of me? I stood up, meeting his gaze without backing down. Only now do you realize that when a man and a woman are alone, staying out all night, people will gossip. Then what about you, when you abandoned your newlywed wife to spend time with your Lacey, watching movies, shopping at department stores, and rowing boats in the park? Did you ever stop to think about what people would say about me? Axel Yu, you care so much about whether I've cheated on you. Could it be that you've developed feelings for me instead? My words hit Axel Yu like a heavy hammer, striking him hard across the face. Instantly, his expression turned unusually grim. He wanted to say that he deeply loved Lacey Chen and that it was absolutely impossible for him to shift his affections and fall in love with another woman. But Ivy Shen was his lawfully wedded wife Tilda. Isn't it only natural for a husband to fall in love with his own wife? Or perhaps, his feelings for Ivy Shen weren't actually love, it was just because she was his wife in name. So, unconsciously, he developed some strange sense of possessiveness toward her. Yes, no matter what, Ivy Shen was his lawfully wedded wife, and military marriages are protected by the law. Taking a deep breath, Axel Yu forced a smile and said to me, Ivy, I was wrong about what happened before. I didn't consider your feelings and reputation. Come back with me first. I promise I'll try to go out with Lacey less often in the future. I'll also give you the respect you deserve. Let's continue living together like before. Okay. Looking at Axel Yu's pleading eyes, I suddenly had an almost absurd thought. Could it be that his really developed feelings for me? Just then, Li Jianfeng spoke up. Comrade Axel Yu, I'm afraid that's not possible. As you know, Ivy and I are in love. Personally, I don't want to see Ivy living with another man. As a man, I think you can understand how I feel, right? Axel Yu suddenly clenched his fists, his gaze sharp and furious as he glared at Li Jianfeng. He said coldly, Comrade Li Jianfeng, No matter what relationship you and Ivy once had, please remember this. As long as Ivy Shin and I have not officially filed for divorce, she remains my lawful wife." Li Jianfeng chuckled lightly. "Then I'll wait for the day you and Ivy get divorced," Axel Yu stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The next day, an urgent telegram arrived from our hometown. Father-in-law had passed away in the hospital after failed resuscitation efforts. Axel Yu drove over to pick me up to attend the funeral. All the way, I was in a daze. I never expected that in this lifetime, without my meticulous care, my father-in-law's late-stage liver cancer couldn't even last half a year. Just like that, he was gone, in the morning hall. Watching my mother-in-law cry until she fainted, I sighed and pulled Axel Yu aside. "I think Mom isn't doing too well physically. If you have time, you should take her to the hospital for a thorough checkup." Although my mother-in-law has always treated me with a hint of calculation in both lifetimes, at the very least, in my previous life, before she passed away, she left me 5,000 yuan and a house in the provincial capital. For this reason alone, in this lifetime, I hope the tumor in her body can be detected early. Perhaps there's still a chance for a cure, but I never expected that at my father-in-law's funeral, my mother-in-law would slap me in front of relatives from both families. I was completely stunned by the slap. In front of Grandpa's tombstone, Grandma glared at me with reddened eyes, as if I were the one who had caused Grandpa's death. "Ivy Shin, you're not worthy of being the daughter-in-law of the Yu family. While your father-in-law was hospitalized with cancer, you, as his daughter-in-law, actually went back to work as if nothing had happened. How could our Yu family have married such an unfilial daughter-in-law, if it weren't for you?" Axel Yu's father wouldn't have passed away so soon. Hearing my mother-in-law's unreasonable accusations and insults, I couldn't help but laugh in anger. "As you said, I'm just the daughter-in-law of the Yu family. Axel Yu is Grandpa's biological son. If he doesn't even come back to take care of his own father, why should I, as a daughter-in-law, be responsible for serving his dad?" Mother-in-law's sharp rebuke. "Just because you're Axel Yu's wife. And Axel Yu is doing important work in the military. As a military family member, you should be filial to his parents on his behalf and hold down the fort for him." I really didn't want to argue back with my mother-in-law, so I could only turn to look at Axel Yu. At this point, "There's no use hiding it anymore. Will you tell your mother yourself, or should I?" Axel Yu looked up blankly, sensing the meaning behind my words, and his eyes instantly filled with fear. "Ivy, please, can you just drop it?" Her mother-in-law pulled him aside and glared at me. "Speak, let her speak. I want to hear what excuse she has for not even being filial to her in-laws." Axel Yu was held back by his mother and could only desperately plead with me with his eyes. "Ivy, don't say it, please, Axel Yu, it's too late. The moment you chose, time and again, to make me take the blame and endure the grievances. We were already completely even." I looked at my mother-in-law and, under Axel Yu's terrified and desperate gaze, told her everything in detail. How he and I had a fake marriage, and how I, as his wife, had covered for Axel Yu and Lacey Chen's secret meetings. You all." My mother-in-law's eyes widened, and she gasped for breath. With a thud, she fainted right in front of my father-in-law's tombstone. After the funeral of my father-in-law, despite Axel Yu's attempts to persuade me to stay, I insisted on buying the earliest train ticket and left the city. As I was leaving, Axel Yu asked me with a bitter smile, "Can't you really stay until after the first week of mourning?" I shook my head and said, "I'm sorry, but after all, our marriage is just a sham. It wouldn't be proper for me to observe the mourning period for your father. I think at a time like this, you should have the person you truly want to marry come instead." But why would Lacey Chen come at a time like this? In her previous life, she didn't want to bear the wrath of her in-laws. Nor did she want to take on the responsibility of supporting them. So, she had Axel Yu, under the guise of being a married couple, keep me tied to my in-laws. It wasn't until my in-laws passed away, freeing her of these two burdens, that Lacey Chen revealed her true colors and had Axel Yu force me into a divorce to make way for her. In this lifetime, with my father-in-law dying so early and my mother-in-law still simmering with anger, Lacey Chen wouldn't dare to provoke any more trouble. I heard that the day after news of my father-in-law's death arrived, Lacey Chen applied for a medical aid mission at the border. Military orders are as unshakable as mountains. She wouldn't be able to return for at least 2 years. 2 years later, time had already washed everything away. She returned with honors. Still the purest white moonlight in Axel Yu's heart. This woman's calculations were too shrewd. It's just a pity that in this lifetime, I have already seen through everything and no longer wish to be a pawn in her and Axel Yu's love story. After making everything clear, I submitted a divorce application to the organization, but for some reason, Axel Yu has been reluctant to sign the papers. I moved out of the military family compound. However, Axel Yu is right to remind me that before the formal divorce, living with Li Jianfeng is not beneficial for either him or me, so I moved into the company dormitory. In my spare time, I began sorting through some fragmented scrolls I had collected from the scrap station. I plan to publish a book to let the world know that these brilliant cultural heritages belong to our Chinese nation. Decades later, if shameless countries dare to claim these cultures as their own by applying for heritage status first, this book will serve as irrefutable evidence to slap them right in the face. Little did I know, while I was secluded writing my book, a huge uproar had already erupted in the residential compound. After my mother-in-law found out that Axel Yu and I had a fake marriage, she inquired about the place where Lacey Chen was providing aid. She actually used her father-in-law's connections to go straight to the front lines and brought Lacey Chen back. In the family compound, Lacey Chen was trembling as she hid behind Axel Yu. Her delicate, petite face was covered with bright red slap marks. The mother-in-law glared at Axel Yu and said coldly, "If you still consider me your mother, then today, right here, in front of everyone, cut all ties with this woman." Axel Yu shook his head in pain. "Mom, I know you're grieving since Dad passed away, but this matter has absolutely nothing to do with Lacey. How can you take your anger out on her?" the mother-in-law roared. "How is it unrelated? If it weren't for her, you and Ivy would have become a real couple long ago. I know Ivy's personality well. If she had truly become our Yu family's daughter-in-law, she would have quit her job to take care of your father when he was diagnosed with cancer, and he wouldn't have passed away so early. It's all because of this vixen. She destroyed your family with Ivy and even caused your father's death, and you still want to protect her." The mother-in-law's accusations, word by word, made Axel Yu and Lacey Chen retreat in shock, their faces turning pale. In this era, punishment for illicit relationships is particularly severe. Moreover, both Axel Yu and Lacey Chen are military personnel. If it were confirmed that they were involved in an improper relationship, forget about promotions. They might even be immediately discharged from the military. Axel Yu begged his mother-in-law to stop talking. Lacey Chen was also frightened and tearfully promised to keep her distance from Axel Yu in the future, vowing never to damage their marital relationship again. Unfortunately, it was all too late. In the military family compound of the 2nd Battalion, all the residents were officers and their families from the same regiment. Axel Yu wasn't even the highest-ranking officer there. After the mother-in-law caused a scene in the family compound, Axel Yu and Lacey Chen were suspended from their duties and placed under investigation by the organization the next day. The investigation team also came to our unit, found me, and asked me about the relationship between my husband and Lacey Chen. I didn't kick someone when they were down. I just told the truth. Axel Yu and I are indeed a married couple in name only, with no real substance to our relationship. On our first night as newlyweds, he told me he had someone in his heart and vowed to remain chaste for them, so we could only be a fake couple. As for whether his true love is Lacey Chen, and whether the two of them have done anything to betray the family, I really don't know, although I didn't add insult to injury. The problem is that Axel Yu and Lacey Chen were simply too high-profile in the military before. The investigation team only needed to ask around slightly to gather a substantial amount of evidence. They strolled through parks together, dined at state-run restaurants together, and watched movies together. Even after marriage, Axel Yu paid no attention to me, his wife. Instead, he gave all his monthly salary and various vouchers to Lacey Chen. The evidence is irrefutable. Soon, both Axel Yu and Lacey Chen were discharged from the military. The house in the family compound was also reclaimed by the military. My divorce application submitted to the military was quickly approved. On the day of our divorce, Axel Yu, unshaven and wearing a crumpled military green shirt, looked at me with a remorseful expression. "Ivy, between us, will there ever be a chance to start over again?" I laughed. "Between you and me, there was never a beginning, so how could there be a future?" It had already been 5 years since I saw Axel Yu again. After my new book was published, it became a great success. I received an invitation from the Writers Association in my hometown to return and hold a discussion session. As I entered the venue, I suddenly spotted a familiar figure at the entrance. "Axel Yu, why is he working as a security guard here?" Axel Yu seemed to have seen me too, but he quickly turned around, pretending not to have noticed me. I didn't step forward to acknowledge him. Sometimes, pretending not to know someone is also a form of dignity for adults. However, after the symposium ended, during the dinner, my ex-husband was inevitably brought up. I heard that after he was discharged from the military back then, my mother-in-law had already pulled some strings, planning to send him to gain experience at the grassroots level. At that very moment, Axel Yu, that idealized figure, couldn't bear the hardships of grassroots life and actually ran off with a nouveau riche. Axel Yu was deeply devastated and refused to stay in the grassroots any longer. Ignoring his mother-in-law's objections, he sold off more than half of his family's assets to gather enough capital. Intending to venture into business, he planned to achieve fame and success, making that wretched Lacey Chen regret her actions. Unfortunately, Axel Yu had no talent for business at all. In less than a year, he lost all his capital. At this very moment, just like in the previous life, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with a tumor. Axel Yu sold off the last of the Yu family's assets, but still couldn't save his mother-in-law's life. After my mother-in-law passed away, the only house left in the family was also reclaimed by her former employer. Axel Yu had nowhere to go and had to turn to an old comrade, who found him a job as a security guard. At least, the issues of food and shelter have been resolved. It was said that Lacey Chen went south with that upstart, and everyone thought she was going to live a life of luxury. Little did she know, the man had already married a wife there. He only tricked her into going back to bear him a son because his wife couldn't conceive. Lacey Chen was proud and ambitious. How could she be content with bearing a son for someone else, relying on her familiarity with pharmaceuticals? She secretly concocted a poison and used it to kill the nouveau riche's original wife. Just as she thought she had successfully secured her position, the original wife's brothers came knocking at her door. Without any distinction or evidence, Lacey Chen was tied up, bound with stones, stuffed into a sack, and thrown into the sea. In those days, coastal smuggling was rampant, and every day several bodies would wash ashore. The police couldn't even keep up with the investigations. Moreover, Lacey Chen was only reported missing, and no one helped her call the police. It wasn't until a year later, when one of the original wife's brothers was arrested for a crime, that this cold case was brought to light. However, because too much time had passed, Lacey Chen's body could no longer be found. But none of this has anything to do with me anymore. Li Jianfeng has collected many precious ancient cultural texts for me again. It's time to start preparing for my second book. Fortunately, in recent years, Li Jianfeng has picked up his family's traditional trade again and opened a pawn shop. With him at home taking care of the kids, I can focus on preparing my new book with peace of mind. End. That concludes the first story. Stay tuned. The next one is even more exciting. In 1987, Liu Shiguang died while working away from home, and his body was never found. He only sent a message to grant me freedom. The Liu family said I was unlucky, broke my leg, and made me leave with nothing. To avoid tarnishing my family's reputation and to find Liu Shiguang's body to get closure for myself, I went out alone to work and search. Later, I saw Liu Shiguang living with another woman, and their child was already calling them mom and dad. That's when I realized Liu Shiguang had faked his death to leave me. I rushed out wanting to kill that couple, but the next moment, because my legs were not agile enough to dodge in time, I was hit and killed by a truck. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment when the news of Liu Shiguang's death was brought back. I clenched my fists. In this life, I will make all of you cry for me. What happened to my son? Explain clearly, the mother-in-law shouted at the top of her lungs, afraid that the people in the yard wouldn't hear. She drew a crowd of onlookers. Aunt Liu, I really don't know what happened to Shiguang. All I know is that he's dead, and his body hasn't even been found. While I was packing his things, I found a letter in his bundle. I'm just here to deliver it for Shiguang. I don't know anything else. Working with Liu Shiguang, Ma Shangjin finished speaking. Stuffed the letter into my hands, and ran off, afraid that I would grab him and question him in detail. I knew that Ma Shangjin was just an actor paid by Liu Shiguang to deliver the letter. He wasn't a professional, and he couldn't perform Liu family's ungrateful betrayal act well. When it comes to acting well, it's the in-laws who really deliver. Sure enough, the mother-in-law wailed loudly, "Oh no, this is terrible. My son, my light, he's my only son. What am I going to do without my son? Oh heavens, open your eyes and see. Why is it that those who should die don't, and those who shouldn't, do? The mother-in-law plopped down on the ground, pounding her chest and wailing as if she were on the verge of death. While crying, she shot me a sidelong glance, implying that I was the one to blame. It was the same in the previous life. On the day the news of Liu Shiguang's death arrived, the mother-in-law and father-in-law fainted from crying several times. And no one could console them. At the time, I still believed that the mother-in-law and father-in-law were genuinely heartbroken, because Liu Shiguang had 3 older sisters. He was the only son in the family. Losing Liu Shiguang was like the sky falling for the elderly couple, so they cursed me, calling me a jinx who brought death to their only son, and I endured it. My mother-in-law beat my leg with a shovel until it broke, telling me to die, and I still endured it. Because I understand the feeling of losing a loved one. They lost their son, and I lost a good man who didn't mind that I couldn't bear children. Like them, I lost the support of my later years. They forced me to divorce Liu Shiguang, drove me out of the Liu family, and I dragged my lame leg to work, searching for Liu Shiguang's body. Once I find Liu Shiguang's body, I can face my own conscience, die with a clear conscience, and owe nothing to the Liu family. But when I was truly about to die, I realized that the Liu family had been scheming against me from the very beginning, all because Liu Shiguang found another woman and had a child with her. I, who couldn't bear children, had worked for their family for so many years, and they needed an excuse to drive me out. All of their family's plans were just to make me leave with nothing. At this moment, I feel I must fight fire with fire. More and more people gathered around to watch. My mother-in-law was waiting for this moment, and so was I. Before my mother-in-law could even start blaming me, I plopped down on the ground and began wailing loudly. Oh, my life is so miserable. My husband, that's it. I didn't even have a child. The fortune teller said he was bad for me, and I didn't believe it at the time. I married him because he said he would treat me well, but the fortune teller wasn't wrong at all. He really was bad for me, leaving me with no one to rely on. He always said he would go out to work and earn money for me to spend and to support his parents, but he never brought back a single penny all year. Instead, I had to work and give him money. I didn't mind giving him money, as long as he was safe and sound, but then he just disappeared, no sign of him alive or dead. What kind of fate is this? Oh heavens, oh heavens. You are so unfair. The wicked, deceitful ones who deserve to die are still alive, while those who shouldn't have died are gone. I cried my heart out, revealing all the things Liu Shiguang had done over the years. If I hadn't spoken up, everyone would still be deceived by the old lady's fabrication of Liu Shiguang being filial and hardworking. I also turned the tables on the mother-in-law's attempt to slander me for bringing misfortune to Liu Shiguang. And the cursing was sincere. Liu Shiguang deserved to die, but he didn't. In my previous life, I was a good person, yet I died. Fortunately, heaven showed mercy, and I was reborn. Then I must make the most of this opportunity. People around immediately started pointing and commenting. I always said there are plenty of people who go out to work, so how come only Shiguang made money? Turns out he didn't earn any money either and had to rely on his wife to support him. Exactly. Shiguang's wife is so frugal, she wouldn't even spend a penny on herself. What a filial daughter-in-law she is. But it's just her bad luck, in my opinion. The Liu family was never meant to have a son. Do you remember the old couple had 4 daughters, kept 3, gave 1 away, and only after donating money at the Guanyin temple did I give birth to Shiguang? How could I forget? No wonder the fortune-teller said the Liu family's daughter-in-law has a hard life. It truly is hard. Upon hearing this, the mother-in-law was displeased. She got up from the ground and shouted at the gossiping women, "All of you shut up, what do you know? My son was killed by Shu Yashu. Shu Yashu is the one who brought misfortune to my son. My son was perfectly fine. Shu Yashu, you jinx, you killed my son and spread rumors. I'll beat you to death." As my mother-in-law spoke, her eyes darted around, and my father-in-law handed her a nearby shovel. My mother-in-law grabbed it and charged at me. I remember this shovel. In my past life, it was this very shovel that broke my leg, leaving me to endure endless pain in wind and rain. I shouted to the crowd, "Murder! Murder! The Liu family is trying to silence someone by killing them." My voice was loud, only because I saw the neighbor's car parked at the door. This car belongs to a relative of the neighbor's aunt, and this relative is an officer with some authority. Today, I'm going to use this officer to reclaim my own interests. I finished shouting and didn't actually let my mother-in-law hit me, running away as she swung the shovel at me a few times. My mother-in-law was so angry she couldn't straighten her back, pointing at me and cursing, "How dare you run? You jinxed my son to death, and you're nothing but a hen that can't lay eggs. What use are you to our old Liu family? I'll beat you to death today to bury you with my son." My mother-in-law was full of energy, gritting her teeth in fury, not grieving over the death of her son, but only fixated on making me accompany him in death. The onlookers tried to mediate, saying, "Oh, Mrs. Liu, why are you hitting her? Shiguang is already dead. And you still need to rely on your daughter-in-law for filial piety and obedience." Exactly, exactly. The dead cannot come back to life, but the living must go on living. You should let it go. What is meant to be will be. And what isn't meant to be won't. Don't force what isn't meant to be. Shut the hell up. What business is it of yours? You're all here spouting sarcastic remarks. Don't you all have sons? Your sons won't die, right? You'd be happy if they died, wouldn't you? These words from the mother-in-law really stirred up a hornet's nest. No one wants to hear such gloomy talk, and several aunts and grannies immediately surrounded my mother-in-law, arguing, "Liu's wife, watch your words. Your son probably died because you're always out there speaking ill of others." Exactly. You sold 4 daughters just to spend money on your son, and you still couldn't keep him. Who knows if it's because you've done too many wicked deeds. My mother-in-law stood with her hands on her hips, taking them all on. "You're talking nonsense. When did I ever sell my daughters? She seems like a vicious cat that's had its tail stepped on. How can you say there isn't? Everyone, tell me, isn't there? Didn't the Liu family send one out? They even asked for 320 yuan in nutrition fees. And what's more, what's the difference between the other 3 daughters and being sold off? Each daughter's bride price was 200 yuan, and not a single cent was allowed to be taken with them. In the fields, when it's time to harvest wheat or pick corn, they make the daughters and sons-in-law come to work, and they don't even provide meals. The grandchildren eat chaff while the sons eat grain. They know exactly what they're doing. Are others blind and can't see it? The mother-in-law's face flushed red, and she spat out a few words through gritted teeth. "You're slandering us." The mother-in-law was outnumbered by the gossiping crowd and gradually lost the upper hand. Unable to chase after me in time, I seized the opportunity to run out and intercepted the man who had just stepped out of the car. "Comrade, my mother-in-law is trying to kill me. Please save me. Help me call the police." Zhong Zeki glanced at the guard beside him, and the uniformed guard immediately stepped forward and shouted, "Quiet, everyone. Someone has. You can tell our Commander Zhong about your grievances. He will see that justice is done for you." Upon hearing this, everyone immediately fell silent. They were all looking at Zhong Zeki and me standing beside him. I seized the opportunity to ask him, "Comrade Division Commander, can you truly serve the people?" Zhong Zeki glanced at me, his gaze sharp, as if trying to see through my soul. It was a look unlike any I had seen in a man, carrying a faint aura of ruthlessness that sent a chill down my spine for a moment. "You also heard my guard say I'm a division commander. If you have any grievances, I can speak to your bureau chief for you. I immediately perked up when I heard that. How could my mother-in-law and father-in-law let me speak? They rushed over. My father-in-law stepped forward and said to Jong Zeki with a smile, "Isn't this Division Commander Jong? It's been a long time since you've been back after your wife passed away. Have you been to see your aunt? What brings you back today? Jong Zeki's match was arranged by this aunt of yours. When I married into the family, I heard that Jong Zeki's wife had already passed away, and he hadn't returned for several years. It was on this very day in my previous life that he came back, which is why I decided to take advantage of the situation," the father-in-law said, taking a cigarette case out of his pocket and offering a cigarette to Jong Zeki. Jong Zeki, however, blocked the cigarette with his hand. He didn't smile and looked somewhat serious as he said, "Uncle Liu, I won't smoke. We have discipline. We don't take a single needle or thread from the masses. You wouldn't want me to violate the rules, would you?" The words were calm yet impactful. My father-in-law immediately put away the cigarette case, smiling awkwardly and waving his hand, saying, "No, no, Division Commander Jong, I'm sorry to make you laugh. Our family has some private matters today, so I won't keep you for tea. You'd better hurry to your aunt's house and check on her." Jong Zeki glanced at me, noticing that I seemed hesitant to speak, and said, "I'm in no hurry. Since my aunt isn't home anyway, I'll help you settle this matter. Guard, go and fetch the chief of the local police station." The guard shouted yes, and drove away. My mother-in-law got scared and reached out to pull my father-in-law's sleeve, but he shook her off. Instead, he greeted Jong Zeki with a smile and said, "How could we trouble you with our time? You must have important matters to attend to since you've come back with such effort. Our family affairs are trivial, and you don't need to listen to my daughter-in-law's nonsense." I stepped forward, hands on my hips, and said, "No, Division Commander Jong said he would stand up for us. It's the perfect time to explain the situation to Division Commander Jong. Dad, we haven't been able to find Shiguang's body, have we? If someone dies and their body isn't found for a proper burial, they'll turn into a vengeful ghost. We must ask Commander Jong to help us find Shiguang's body." My mother-in-law shot me a few sharp glances and said through gritted teeth, "This is a small matter of ours. How dare we trouble the commander? Hurry up and come home with me, or else you'll be sorry." I don't care about my mother-in-law. I look at Jong Zeki and ask, "Commander Jong, you are a soldier of the people, so you will surely stand up for the people, right? We are only seeking justice today. If Shiguang dies without getting justice, he will never rest in peace." The in-laws still insisted that Jong Zeki should not interfere in the Liu family's affairs. "Commander Jong is busy. Don't make unreasonable demands," Jong Zeki said with a half-smile. "I'm not busy today either. Since she called me a soldier of the people, how could I ignore the affairs of the locals? My aunt lives in this area, and something like this must have upset her, Uncle Liu. Don't worry, I'll help you seek justice for Shiguang. I'll make sure he gets what's fair." The in-laws, the two of them looked as if they had eaten a dead rat, their faces extremely unpleasant. While I secretly felt pleased, the onlookers, seeing that Jong Zeki intended to intervene, speculated that it was for the sake of his reputation. They chimed in, "Commander Jong is so kind-hearted, going out of his way to stand up for your Liu family. Shouldn't you thank Commander Jong?" "Exactly. General Jong is a truly upright official. You're really lucky to have run into General Jong's return. Hurry up and thank General Jong," the eunuch said dryly. Thank you, General Jong. Don't mention it, it's only right." The eunuch and his wife, I let Jong Zeki into the house, and immediately a crowd gathered outside the door, refusing to leave no matter how much we tried to shoo them away. I took out the letter from earlier and handed it to Jong Zeki, saying, "Commander Jong, this is Liu Shiguang's letter." Ma Shangjin said it was a suicide note, but I don't understand it. Could you take a look? My in-laws turned pale with fear. They wanted to snatch the letter back but didn't dare, so they could only glare at me. I said with great grievance, "Mom, Dad, why are you glaring at me? I'm only trying to seek justice for Shiguang. If we don't let Division Commander Jong see, when will we ever find Shiguang's body and give him a proper burial?" My mother-in-law finally couldn't take it anymore and said in a lowered voice, "You just want Shiguang to be dead, don't you?" I said with great innocence, Mom, you're overthinking it. Shiguang is my husband. He never even minded that I couldn't bear children, so how could I possibly want him to? He's dead. And wasn't he already dead? How can you say I wanted him dead? Mom, you're slandering me. You're twisting my heart. Mother-in-law. Zhong Zeki glanced at me. A flicker of amusement in his eyes. Me, what's so funny about that? Did he see through my acting? That can't be, right, of course. I do want Liu Shiguang dead now, to avenge my death in my previous life. My mother-in-law raised her hand to hit me, but Zhong Zeki slammed his palm on the table, startled. She quickly withdrew her hand and shrank back to the side. The room fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. The father-in-law reluctantly sat down and had the mother-in-law pour them some tea. Commander Zhong, you've read the letter. What did Shiguang say? Zhong Zeki said with a strange expression. You should read the letter first. We'll talk after you've finished. Give me the letter. I just glanced at it roughly, gritted my teeth hard, and suppressed the hatred in my eyes. In my previous life, I held this letter in my hands for several years. I read it every day and could recite it by heart, not missing a single punctuation mark. I kept wondering why Liu Shiguang wrote this letter. Did he have the ability to foresee the future, knowing that he would soon pass away, and fearing that my in-laws would make things difficult for me after his death, so he left a will to divorce me? It wasn't until I saw him with his mistress that I understood. Liu Shi, he had long since changed his heart. His kindness to me was just a way to use me. He wasn't afraid of his parents making things difficult for me. He simply wanted a marriage without commitment. His parents clearly already knew the contents of the letter and calmly read it from start to finish. The mother-in-law looked at the letter, steeping herself in emotion, and finally squeezed out a few tears, saying, "Oh, that damned scoundrel. Shiguang was a poor, fated child. His father and I had no connections, so we could only let him go out and struggle on his own." Commander Zhong, what does a person live for in this life? Isn't it just to have descendants? But Shu Yashu can't have children. Shiguang was suffering inside and could only go out to vent his frustrations. I suspect it was because of this that the accident happened. Before he died, Shiguang left this letter, surely with resentment in his heart. Today, I ask you to make the decision to let Shiguang and Shu Yashu divorce. This statement is exactly what I had in mind. Zhong Zeki looked at me and asked, Comrade Shu, what do you think? I bit my lip, my eyes reddening, and said, Commander Zhong, Shiguang treated me very well when he was alive, and I swore to stay by his side for the rest of my life. Now that he has died under mysterious circumstances, and someone just wants to dismiss me with a letter, what if it's a scheme by the murderer? How can I possibly accept this? You also belittle my feelings for Shiguang. Divorce is possible, but I must see Shiguang's body. I will mourn at his grave as his widow. For 3 full years before divorcing, the prerequisite is that Liu Shiguang's body can be found. The in-laws panicked, of course. They couldn't find Liu Shiguang's body. Without Zhong Zeki, they could still find someone to help me and Liu Shiguang get a divorce certificate without issuing a death certificate. But now, without a death certificate to prove he's dead, I won't get a divorce, and I'll have a share of the family's assets. I want to make Liu Shiguang suffer, whether he's alive or dead. The in-laws wanted to speak but didn't dare, so they could only look at Zhong Zeki, hoping he would find my request troublesome and refuse it. Someone in the crowd said, the Liu family's daughter-in-law is capable and kind-hearted. How did she end up with such a short-lived fate? But she is truly righteous and loyal. Even though Shiguang has passed away, she still insists on observing the mourning period for 3 years. Commander Zhong must help find Shiguang's body, or it would break her heart. That's right, that's right. What does it matter if she has no children? Whoever ends up with the Liu family's daughter-in-law would be no different from having an extra daughter. The in-laws' expressions grew increasingly unpleasant, until the police chief arrived. He warmly shook Zhong Zeki's hand. Ah, Commander Zhong, what a pleasure to meet you. I've long heard that a prominent figure has emerged in our area. I've been wanting to visit you for a long time. But unfortunately, I never had the chance. The chief certainly knows how to seize an opportunity. It's a pity I won't let him have this opportunity. Director Song, General Zhong is sitting here to stand up for me. But I also know this matter has little to do with General Zhong. I beg you, director, to seek justice for my Shiguang. It's heartbreaking that my Shiguang died without a body to be found. How can I even eat?" As I cried, the director couldn't continue the conversation. A glint of interest flashed in Zhongzeki's eyes. The bureau chief looked embarrassed, glared fiercely at the in-laws, and said coldly, "Speak up, what exactly is going on?" The mother-in-law tried to lie again, making up a story. This letter was brought back by Ma Shangjin, saying that Shiguang died out there. The letter was Shiguang's last wish. His father and I thought we should help Shiguang fulfill his wish to divorce Xu Yashu. That woman is nothing but a jinx. Our Liu home doesn't want her anymore. I cried, "Mom, what you're saying is so unfair. How I've treated you, Dad, and Shiguang all along. Everyone can see it with their own eyes. I'm starting to suspect that you want me to divorce Shiguang so he can find someone who can bear children, but you're not willing to give me any compensation." What nonsense are you talking? Father-in-law interrupted me sharply. I'm not intimidated and continue, unless I see Liu Shiguang's body, otherwise he's just avoiding me, trying to divorce me, and I left with nothing. Mom, Dad, is Shiguang really dead? Are you sure? The in-laws exchanged a glance, both beginning to feel uneasy, thinking I had noticed something. Who in their right mind would curse their own son to die? Shiguang died because of you. Now our family doesn't want you. Pack your things and get out of here. My mother-in-law said this and was about to push me. Zhongzeki suddenly stood up and pulled me aside, saying coldly to my mother-in-law, "Auntie, you're being too hasty. The matter isn't clear yet. Jumping to conclusions isn't the party's way of doing things. The party has always required us to act based on evidence, and I think Comrade Shu's request isn't unreasonable." At that, my in-laws were left speechless, only breathing heavily in anger. I felt a bit relieved and was very grateful to Zhongzeki for helping me. The bureau chief sent someone to bring Ma Shangjin in for questioning. Despite his name Shangjin, which means progress, he was actually unambitious and cowardly. Before he was brought in, Zhongzeki's guard had already given him a verbal warning. As soon as Ma Shangjin came in, he told the truth. "I know nothing. It was Shiguang who gave me $20 to deliver the letter for him. He said he's dead. If you have any business, go ask Shiguang." The in-laws immediately said, "Shangjin, you mustn't speak nonsense." Ma Shangjin, afraid of being locked up, immediately swore, "If I, Ma Shangjin, am lying, may I be hit by a car the moment I step out the door." Everyone, cars are rarely seen here. Yet this person even makes vows with caution. It's my turn to perform. My tears fall like beans. "Mom and Dad, did you know that Liu Shiguang isn't dead? Is it because you dislike that I can't have children and want me to divorce Shiguang, but you won't give me anything, and you want me to leave with nothing? Is that why you're putting on this act?" "My in-laws ignore me," Zhongzeki said calmly. "This matter is too strange. Faking death can be a big or small issue. Director Song, we need to investigate it clearly, otherwise it's not appropriate to report it. After all, every position has its responsibilities. I have a job waiting for me out of town soon, and it's a stable one. I can't just occupy a position that belongs to a dead person." Zhongzeki, this is a threat. The father-in-law finally couldn't stay calm any longer and said bluntly, "Our family just dislikes Xu Yashu for not being able to have children. Our family can't let Shiguang's generation end with him. Xu Yashu, let me be straight with you. You must divorce Shiguang. You can't hold him back from having children with another woman." I pretended to clutch my heart in pain. "So, Shiguang has someone else outside. No wonder he hasn't come back. And, not only did I not get the money, but I even had to pay out of my own pocket, and none of you said a word against it. It seems like I'm just here to serve you all. Is Liu Shiguang using my money to support his mistress and child?" Director Song, General Zhong, how can the Liu family bully a weak woman like me like this? I might as well just die." As I said this, I tried to run into the wall. Zhongzeki grabbed me and held me back. I struggled a few times but couldn't break free. This man is quite stubborn. I gave him a wink, wanting to continue the act of hitting the wall. He calmly took a handkerchief out of his pocket and handed it to me. "Wipe your tears. With Director Song and me here, we will definitely give you an explanation. Uncle Liu, tell us clearly what really happened." Zhong Zeki spoke up. This matter must be brought to a conclusion. Director Song also pressured, old Liu, some things just shouldn't be done. Once done, they leave traces. If you still want Shiguang to be well, you should tell the truth. Even if you want a divorce, you shouldn't lie. The word lie defined the nature of the matter. The in-laws' eyes trembled violently. They just want me to leave with nothing. But they never thought about making Liu Shiguang uncomfortable. The in-laws were at a loss for words. While the surrounding neighbors enjoyed the drama with sweet satisfaction, it's definitely fake. I always said Shiguang was perfectly fine and not sick. How could he have died? Exactly. The Liu family is truly heartless. It's not that Xu Yashu doesn't want to have a child. Who can say for sure about health issues? Even if you want a divorce, you should at least make it clear and give the other person a way out. Why resort to such a move? Isn't that pushing someone to their death? Who says it's not true? The Lius are really not trustworthy. I actually believed what they said, but they talk about being decent people, yet their actions, this is not something a human would do. Director Song coughed a couple of times and said, quiet, quiet. Everyone quieted down. The in-laws' eyes turned red. The father-in-law could only say, Xu Yashu's inability to have children is a major flaw. There's no denying that. Even if my son were to find another woman, it's Xu Yashu can't keep a man. She lacks the ability herself. Since the two of them are emotionally incompatible, divorce is only natural. Director Song, what do you think? He didn't dare to ask Zhong Zeki. I only dare to ask Director Song. I think Director Song doesn't want to blow this matter out of proportion either. After all, it would reflect poorly on his jurisdiction if it got out. Such an absurd matter would also make him lose face. Sure enough, Director Song hesitated. Zhong Zeki was still beside me, and I took his handkerchief to blow my nose hard. Zhong Zeki's eyes twitched, jumped. Director Song, the Liu family wants me dead. They've ruined my reputation and given me nothing in return. Even in ancient times, leaving, even after marriage, I still want to take back my dowry. Besides, the Liu family is clearly in the wrong here. If it weren't for General Zhong today, I would have been wronged to death. General Zhong, Director Song, you must stand up for me. I won't let Director Song dismiss me so easily. The Liu family won't get off lightly either. My in-laws pointed at me and scolded, Xu Yashu, you can't bear children. If it were anyone else, they would have already died. Our Shiguang is the only son in the family. How could he possibly want someone who can't have children? Today, you will divorce whether you want to or not. And also, the dowry has already been given to the husband's family. I've never heard of taking it away. Out of respect for General Zhong and Director Liu, I'll let you pack a couple of pieces of clothing and go. Listen to that condescending tone. Anyone who didn't know better would think my few shabby clothes were some priceless treasure. I said coldly, no way. Since we're separating, we need to settle the accounts clearly. Every cent that's rightfully mine must be given to me without any shortage. Only then will I agree to the divorce. Otherwise, I'll sue Liu Shiguang for bigamy. You, shut up. The mother-in-law was startled and looked worriedly at Director Song and Zhong Zeki. Zhong Zeki smiled ambiguously. Director Song glanced over and offered Zhong Zeki a cigarette. Zhong Zeki didn't refuse and took it, playing with it between his index and middle fingers. This made Director Song think there was still room for maneuver, so he immediately smiled and signaled for the Liu family to remain calm. But who would have thought? Zhong Zeki's next words were, Director Song, this is truly a wonderful place. Even the cigarettes smell better than those at the division headquarters. It tastes good. This statement made Director Song's heart race. The cigarette he smoked today was definitely not one a bureau chief should be smoking. There was no need to explain what was going on. Everyone understood it in their hearts. Bureau Chief Song was a sensible man, and he understood that Zhong Zeki intended to intervene in today's matter. Even though he didn't know why, Bureau Chief Song gave a flattering smile. Knowing that I had the upper hand in this matter, he is willing to do a favor for Zhong Zeki. Please don't laugh, Division Commander Zhong. Rest assured, I won't let a good person suffer injustice. Liu. Director Song glared at the father-in-law, who immediately said, Liu Laozhen, your family matter has even caught Division Commander Zhong's attention. This matter must be properly addressed. You are in the wrong here. How can you use someone's daughter and then push her to the brink of death? If the daughter says she can solve it, then follow her method to resolve it. Otherwise, if she really sues Liu Shiguang for bigamy, he won't be able to handle it. The father-in-law trembled. He may act tough at home, but he knows nothing about official matters. Hearing Director Song say that, I felt scared, so he said to me, "What do you want?" I stated my demand. Since all the dowry items I brought are being used by you, convert them into cash and give it to me. Along with the amount from these past few years for your Liu family, give me $1,000, and I'll get the divorce certificate with Liu Shiguang, $1,000. Why don't you just rob someone? You couldn't even get that much from robbing someone. Mother-in-law was the first to break down. Zhong Zeki and Director Song frowned. Father-in-law immediately signaled for mother-in-law to shut up. $1,000. Fine, as long as you agree to the divorce, I'll give you the money after the divorce is finalized. Does he think he's clever, or does he think I'm stupid? No way. Pay today, get the certificate today. If you don't pay today, I'll sue Liu Shiguang today. If I don't get the money today, once Zhong Zeki leaves, I won't get a single cent. Don't talk nonsense. Shiguang doesn't have any other women. How could he commit bigamy? Suing him would be pointless. Liu Shiguang and that woman even have a child together, but they just haven't registered their marriage. They've been hiding it from everyone, thinking I can't find any evidence. But what if I do? Those with nothing to lose fear nothing. I bet he wouldn't dare to confront me head on. Not a single penny less than $1,000. Just as a person leaves a shadow and a wild goose leaves its call, I believe the party and the bureau chief will grant me justice. Father-in-law was truly anxious and could only signal to mother-in-law with his eyes, telling her to go get the money. I know they have money. Even if Liu Shiguang doesn't give it to me, would he really not give it to his parents? The whole family is in cahoots, trying to profit from my suffering. I must avenge this injustice. Mother-in-law dawdled and slowly took out 1,000 yuan. Onlookers are watching the commotion, speaking harsh words that made the in-laws feel ashamed. I counted the money and said to Zhong Zeki, "The amount is correct. Commander Zhong, please take me to get a divorce from Liu Shiguang. He resents, I can't stand living with him, and I also despise him for not being a real man. If it's divorce he wants, then so be it." My in-laws were trembling with anger. But I was secretly delighted. Zhong Zeki didn't refuse and had the guard drive me and my in-laws to the Civil Affairs Bureau to handle the divorce procedures. With Director Song's words, the divorce procedures were quickly completed. Holding the divorce certificate, I finally felt at ease. Whether Liu Shiguang is dead or alive is none of my business now, but I will take responsibility for reporting it. I've packed up all my things and given them away, only taking my ID card, divorce certificate, and bank book as I prepare to leave. I took that 1,000 yuan and deposited it right after the divorce, so it's more convenient to carry this way. As I stepped out, I happened to run into Zhong Zeki standing by the car. I stepped forward and said, "General Zhong, thank you so much for today. If it weren't for you, my matter would probably still be dragging on, and by then, with no connections or influence, I'd surely be bullied to death." I genuinely appreciate Zhong Zeki. After all, he had no obligation to help, so I should at least express my gratitude for taking advantage of his assistance. Zhong Zeki smiled, a glint of clarity in his eyes, and said, "You know how to use limited resources to get things done for yourself. You're not a fool, of course. I have my own reasons for helping you. Since it's help, I expect something in return." I was a bit confused by what Zhong Zeki meant. When my wife gave birth, she didn't make it, but the child survived. He's 6 years old now, at that age where even cats and dogs find him annoying. I want to find someone to take care of, never mind him, to keep him from learning bad habits. I can see you're quite capable. You don't let yourself be taken advantage of, and you certainly won't let those around you suffer either. You don't blame me for using you. In an instant, I realized that my little tricks had fooled everyone around me, but not this battle-hardened man. He gave a roguish laugh. "It's not about using. If I'm willing, it doesn't count as being used. You can't have children, so in the future, my children will be yours. What about the child?" I understood. Jong Zeki had taken a liking to me because I couldn't have children. I didn't put on airs either. Finding a division commander as a husband was something many could only dream of, and on top of that, I'd gain a 6-year-old son. Why not go for it? But I have conditions. Commander Jong, you're a sensible person, and I won't beat around the bush when talking to someone like you. The Liu family has treated me this way, and I can't just let it slide. If you can help me teach Liu Shiguang a lesson, I'll agree to your request. I had a hidden agenda. If Jong Zeki didn't agree, then don't say I didn't repay the favor. I could just take the $1,000 and leave to make a living. Very good, even if it's just running a small business. I want this life to be more relaxed than the last. Jong Zeki didn't hesitate for long. He opened the car door and said, "Let's go, wait for the news at my place. I still need to see if you're up to the task." My guard went up, and I frowned, saying, "What if your son doesn't want me?" Jong Zeki was so angry he laughed, probably thinking I was utterly heartless. "Don't worry, whether my son wants you or not, I'll keep my promise to you and see it through to the end." I nodded and got into the car. Jong Zeki asked me, "Do you want to go back and tell your family?" I shook my head, my gaze falling on the familiar street outside. "I've lived here for a few years and still feel somewhat attached." Enough said. Before, I lived for others. I listened to my family and married someone I didn't like, working myself to the bone for a man who was worth nothing. From now on, I'll live for myself. There's no need to explain anything to anyone else. Jong Zeki didn't say anything more, although he said he would marry me. He hasn't actually done so, given his status. It's not like he would rush to my family to propose and curry favor. When we arrived at Jong Zeki's doorstep, I suggested, "Why not just say I'm the nanny you hired? We can talk about marriage once we're more familiar with each other." Jong Zeki raised an eyebrow and said, "All right, I'll go with your plan." It seems he isn't a lustful person either. After a while, I got along quite well with Jong Zeki's son, Jong Ningwei. The little one insisted on sleeping with me every night. Although he was young, he was very perceptive. When he slept with me at night, he whispered, "Auntie, I know you're not the nanny. She is the stepmother my dad found for me. If you don't like it, you can talk to your dad and ask him to just treat me as a nanny." I'm actually a bit hesitant. Jong Ningwei is a pretty good kid. If he really objects to Jong Zeki remarrying, I don't necessarily have to marry him, as long as I get paid. I'm willing to take care of Jong Ningwei as a career, not as a free nanny. Jong Ningwei shook his head. "This is not good for your reputation. My father is a responsible person. The fact that he brought you back shows that he acknowledges you, Auntie. I'm not a stingy person. The reason I was angry with my father before was that all the aunts around him had ulterior motives. They tried to please me just to win my father's heart and make him abandon me. I understand all of that. But during this time, I've realized that you don't have any of those intentions at all. Liking my dad, you just want to have a home. So I like you. At the very least, you're not fake, me. Thank you for having such a clear vision and seeing things so thoroughly. It's making me a bit unconfident in my acting skills. Then you wouldn't mind if I married your dad. Let me tell you a secret. I really want a mom. My dad is too busy, and it used to be just me and my grandma at home. Last year, my grandma passed away from illness. My dad has hired several temporary nannies for me, all very young, and it's obvious they have ulterior motives. They're after my dad's looks and money. Me. Quite the high opinion of his own dad. Then I shouldn't have any ulterior motives. I want money too, and I'm also drawn to your father's good looks. I forced myself to finish speaking, my face flushing red. Jong Zeki is indeed quite good looking. Jong Ningwei hummed in agreement and said, "Auntie, I understand. A woman always has to want something. You're so much younger than my father. My dad said the food you cook tastes like my mom's, and I know he's moved, so go for him. He's happy about it, he's tall, and if he's happy, I'm happy. I like you too, and you two can have a baby sister for me. I want a sister of my own. Me. This child is so heartwarming. Jong Zeki is really lucky. On second thought, if I marry Jong Zeki, Jong Ningwei would be my son. Well, it's not entirely out of the question." That night, Jong Ningwei and I slept soundly through the night. Early the next morning, Jong Zeki returned and told me that the matter he was handling was making progress. So he had the guard take me to have a look. I met Liu Shiguang at the police station. He hung his head, looking frightened. Upon seeing me, he immediately became defensive. You already took the money. Why are you still reporting me? I didn't commit bigamy. I just wanted a son. Having a son with a fallen woman. Do you understand the nature of your actions? The guard nearly burst out laughing. Liu Shiguang immediately shut his mouth. I looked at Liu Shiguang, my emotions long since settled. This man wasn't worth any of my feelings for him. I take back everything I gave. Liu Shiguang, if you want a divorce, just say it. I won't cling to you, but what your family is doing is leaving me no way out. Even a rabbit will bite when cornered. If I bite you, you deserve it. Woo-woo, I'm begging you. I've already been arrested because of my girlfriend. What more do you want from me? Before, I didn't do you wrong, I just wanted a child. I admit my family went a bit too far, but I don't regret it. It was all for old Liu, to have an heir. The guard seemed to hesitate, and I stood up and left. I came to see Liu Shiguang this time just to say goodbye. He has lost his job, his pride and dignity, and it will be hard for him to live smoothly in the future. The guard escorted me home, and I saw Zhong Zeki hadn't left. Upon seeing me, he said, "Today is a good day, let's go. Get our marriage certificate." I nodded. I, Shu Yashu, also want to live my own life well. Life after marriage was quite peaceful, except that Zhong Zeki was a bit clingy. I thought all men were as weak as Liu Shiguang, but Zhong Zeki turned out to be anything but weak. I was even worried that the bed at home wouldn't hold up. Zhong Zeki must have been worried too, because he replaced it with a sturdier one, which led to me being teased by the neighbors in the residential compound for days. I had a pleasant time with Zhong Ningwei, and during the summer vacation, I took the child back home for a visit. I just didn't expect that while having a meal at home, I suddenly felt nauseous. My mom asked me about my period, and that's when I realized it seemed like I hadn't had it for 2 months, because I thought I couldn't get pregnant. I never paid any attention to my period. After my mom mentioned it, I went to get checked, and to my surprise, I was actually pregnant. I was completely stunned. My mother cried out, "Heaven has finally opened its eyes. Everyone said you couldn't have children, but this pregnancy is truly a surprise." The doctor said, "What do you mean she can't have children? This young lady is in excellent health and still young. It's the perfect age for childbearing. Doctor, are you mistaken? My daughter was married before, and they said she couldn't have children." My mother didn't believe it, and I was skeptical too. The doctor said, "I'm not sure about other things, but the female comrade is in good health, and the baby is also healthy. I recommend you follow up with regular checkups." My mother took me out and said angrily, "It must be Liu Shiguang who can't have children, and he even slandered you. The Liu family has no good people. The child that woman he married brought along might not even be his." My mother went home happily and handed out celebratory candies to the neighbors, telling them I was pregnant. The news didn't take long to reach the Liu family. After Liu Shiguang was released from prison, he became very depressed and didn't work. The woman he was with scolded him every day. When Liu Shiguang heard that I was pregnant, he couldn't believe it and came running to see me. I was taking Zhong Ningwei to buy a little goldfish. He pulled me and asked me to give him a sister, and I smiled and said yes. Liu Shiguang looked at my belly in shock. I said calmly, "The doctor said I can have children. I'm very healthy. The one who can't is you, Liu Shiguang." Later, Zhong Zeki drove back by himself and took me and Zhong Ningwei home. I was somewhat at a loss about how to explain. After all, Zhong Zeki had initially approached me because I couldn't have children. After Zhong Ningwei fell asleep that night, I decided to have a talk with Zhong Zeki. "Zhong Zeki, if you don't want this child, I won't force you. Let's get a divorce. I know what the military roommate requires. Having a second child is not allowed." "What do you mean? You came to me in the first place because I couldn't have children. And now this pregnancy wasn't planned, but I treasure it. I thought I will never have children. I will raise them on my own and won't make things difficult for you. You can just..." I can't say it anymore. For so many days, Zhong Zeki has been following my every word. He's a chauvinist, yet he's willing to let me manage the money, take care of our son, and even listen to me at home. It's impossible for me not to be moved at all. The thought of him looking for another woman makes my heart ache with a dense, piercing pain. What can I do? Are you trying to arrange another woman for me? What kind of man do you take me for? I've long known you could conceive. If I weren't willing, I would have taken precautions. This child was within my plans. It just came a bit sooner than expected. I looked up, my face full of astonishment. He chuckled and pinched my cheek. All right, you're young but quite sharp. When I investigated Liu Shiguang, how could I not have looked into it thoroughly? Why didn't you tell me? Didn't I tell you to take precautions? Didn't you say you wanted to live for yourself, and you also said you wanted a child? As for family planning, my situation is special. Ning Wei isn't actually my biological child. He's the child of a comrade that my ex-wife and I adopted. I've already submitted a report to the authorities, so we can have this one. Just relax. I immediately felt at ease. I really want to have this child. Later, when Zhong Chichi turned 3 and started kindergarten, I worked hard to study and, with the help of Zhong Zeki, managed to secure a stable job. Zhong Ningwei adored his little sister and would rush to the kindergarten every day after school to pick her up. I can take care of 2 children at once. Zhong Zeki had a vasectomy before I gave birth. Now our family lives in harmony. I ran into Liu Shiguang while I was with the children. It seemed like he came specifically to see me. I know he divorced the woman he remarried, and according to my mom, it was because the woman's child wasn't his. Serves you right, karma. I didn't look at Liu Shiguang anymore, and I got on my bike with the child, ready to leave. Not far away, I heard a loud noise from behind. Someone said there was a car accident. I turned around and looked, only to find Liu Shiguang missing. My pupils contracted as I saw Liu Shiguang lying on the ground not far away, blood flowing everywhere. His gaze was unfocused as he looked in my direction, his eyes filled with something I couldn't understand. He seems to have taken on the fate of my previous life, but it doesn't matter anymore, I said to the child. Don't look around, let's go home. Dad is coming back for dinner today. Great. I didn't look back again, because that wasn't my fate. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.